last years of the 19th century, that human affairs were being watched from the timeless worlds of space. No one could have dreamed we were being scrutinized as someone with a microscope studies creatures that swarm and multiply in a drop of water. Few men even considered the possibility of life on other planets. And yet, across the gulf of space, minds immeasurably superior to ours regarded this Earth with envious eyes. And slowly and surely, they drew their plans against us.
Broadcasting live
from a tiny studio somewhere in North America.
This is Dark Matters Radio Live. And now I give you your host,
the silverback of ufology.
Here's Don Ecker.
And ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Welcome back to the first show of Dark Matters Radio in the year 2020. And of course, all of it is being brought to you courtesy of KGRA. And as per usual, our stellar producer, Bill Skywatcher. Bill, you're doing one heck of a job. I don't know what we'd do without you, buddy. Now, it's been over a month since we've been live. Let me give you just a quick little sketch of what's been going on. On December the 2nd, which was just after Thanksgiving, I woke up at 2 a.m. in the morning, and somewhere along the line, I picked up a virus, a stomach flu virus, that knocked me on my tail end for the next 2.5 weeks. It was a real bad one. Let me tell you what, I was running from one end to the other. And by the time I got around to getting finally over that, Christmas was here, and we had a heck of a lot going on here at the Hacienda in sunny Southern California. I had been elected to the board of directors for our local community association. And the night that I was supposed to be sworn in, I couldn't even make it because of the flu. As a matter of fact, the president of the association told me, "Don't you dare show up." So I didn't need much more than that to convince me to stay home. But last Monday, a week ago Monday, we had our first board meeting to set the agenda for this coming year for our association. A lot of stuff that we had to get scheduled and stored away. And Vicky, my wife Vicky, had brought me over to this meeting. She took the car home. We only have one car currently. And she was supposed to be back at 9 o'clock to pick me up, which she arrived, but our meeting had gone overtime. So she went back home. It really wasn't that far away from where we live, but she went back home. And about 9:30, we had just gotten done. And the house that I was at, we got a phone call, and it was Vicky. She had gone home, and I don't know exactly what it was she was doing. She's always rushing around. She took a tumble and went down hard and basically ended up dislocating her shoulder. Now, she at first thought something was broken. I got one of the people to run me back to the house. And thank God the lady that took me home came in with me to see if she could help. And I ended up having to call 911. Well, they sent an ambulance, took Vic to the hospital. had to x-ray her, of course, to find out what damage was done, discovered that it was a dislocated shoulder. She was in extreme pain, and they had to give her anesthesia to reset the shoulder. Well, I ended up taking her home between 3:30 a.m. and 4. Well, needless to say, that kind of put a crimp in things. So for the last week, I've been the chief bottle washer. I've been the chauffeur. I've done all those things that, hey, guys, come on, be honest. You know that sometimes you take the lady for granted. I know I did. Well, I suddenly discovered what the heck goes on behind the scenes. So I've been kind of dragging my tail today. As a matter of fact, we had to go out and do some running around again today. Vicky needed to get to the pharmacy. So anyway, that's what's been happening here. Now, about 2 months ago, I told Richie Sarradet, Rich and I think you all probably are aware, he and I have been tight buds for about 30 plus years. And he's had a fascinating excursion into this weird, wacky, sometimes wonderful, sometimes not field that we're all interested in. And I said, hey, Rich, I've got an idea. You know, it's been a long time since I've done an interview with you. Would you be interested in doing that? He said, well, okay, I guess. So anyway, for whatever reason, something else came up. We didn't do it. So this past week, I called Rich up and I said, hey, buddy, how about this coming Friday? And he said, okay, sounds good. So tonight, my very special guest, my longtime friend, my longtime buddy, Mr. Rich Sarradet, is joining us for an excursion into the weird, wonderful, and wacky. Rich, welcome to the show, which is something I tell you every Saturday anyway, since you're a co-host on the weekend. But how the heck are you doing?
I'm doing well, bud, and I'm kind of looking forward to reminiscing a little bit and discussing some of the things that have come up through my, experiences in the field and outside the field and before the field. But it's fun. You know, I'm trying to remember, when did we start? Was it 2012 originally on the other station?
No, 2010.
2010.
January 2010.
Yeah,
so it's been 10 years ago.
10 years, bud. 10 years. And you don't look a day older.
No, the hell I don't.
I sure do.
I had a short chat yesterday. The missus and I discovered that if the two of us, the two gimps, didn't go grocery shopping, we weren't going to eat for the next week or so. So we bundled up, climbed into the car, went grocery shopping, and she went inside, and I was sitting in the car, and I got a call from Skywatcher, from our producer. And he said, hey, there's somebody here. Would you like to talk to him? And I said, well, who is it? He said, well, hang on a minute. Come here. I got Ecker on the phone. So he came over, and it was Commander Cobra. So we're chitting and chatting a little bit, and we were talking about current events, and I kind of got myself in trouble, Rich. You know why? Because
I'd like to know.
It was on my cell phone. It was a Skype call, and Commander Cobra came over and got on the phone, and I'm looking, and I said to him, hey, Charlie Deuce, I got a question for you. Yeah? I said, let me ask you, did anybody ever tell you strongly resemble Chuck Schumer?
Oh, my God. Oh, you just throw mud in his face.
And immediately, I had two fingers waving at me.
So, that's funny.
Oh, so anyway, so we're talking, and he's of course going to be on his show, Task Force Griffin, on Sunday. But yeah, that was a nice little surprise. So yeah, but nobody would ever mistake you for Charlie Schumer, would they?
I don't know. I hope not. But I've been mistaken for, let's see. I don't know. I think I have a doppelganger. Somebody got a lot of my work back in the day. Well, I saw you on this the other night, and I went, I didn't do that.
There was a devious reason why I mentioned that. So while we're talking, I said, well, don't feel bad, Deuce. I said, guess what? I said, there was a time, right about the time I came home from the service, I got out of the Army, where I would be walking down the street. And this is, by the way, this is honest to God, the truth. I'll never forget this gal that I was dating right after I came back. We're walking down the street. I went down to her where she was working at, picked her up. We were going to go to lunch, and we're walking down the sidewalk. And this woman came running up to me, and she went, "Oh my God." And I looked at her, and I'm thinking, uh-oh, what have I done here? And she looked at me real close, and she said, "Oh my God, I thought you were Elvis Presley." So,
well, you did bear a resemblance when you were young.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I sent that picture to Deuce today. And I said, me and my buddy Elvis. So
well, I've been told I'd be a good actor to play the part of Joe Biden, that we have a similar kind of look. And I said, he'll probably be available. You can probably get Joe Biden to do Joe Biden.
Oh yeah, you never know. Hey, look, let's go back to the beginning, buddy.
Uh-huh.
Way back about 1990, 1991, I get a call at UFO Magazine. And there was this guy on there, and he introduced himself. He said, "Hi, I'm Rich Sarradet." And he didn't say, "My little dog Bash is here barking" in the background. But
God, let me see if I can get him inside.
Yeah.
Okay.
That'd probably
go on.
be good.
I'm mobile. Yeah.
That'd probably be good. But anyway, he said, "I'd like to come out and meet you, sit down, and maybe talk about some business." So take it from there, buddy.
Well, I had been reading UFO Magazine for a couple of years, getting off the newsstand in the old days, and it came out every 2 months, remember?
Yeah, sure. Do I remember?
And, yeah, of course. And eventually it went to 1 month, but for most of the time it was every 2 months. And there was another magazine, a British UFO magazine run by, I forget his name, that was also hard to get. But between the two of them, that was my source of updated information and a little bit of informing on the subject while prowling bookstores for, books on UFOs and things like that. And like a lot of people went through this track. And I read everything, and I was especially attracted to Jacques Vallée's work, Dimensions and Confrontations and all that. And I decided that I wanted to get more involved, and I was getting tired of acting. Not tired of acting. I was getting tired of the business of acting. I love acting. And the business of acting was, the work wasn't that satisfying. It was more and more, as I moved out of a certain age range to land the auditions I was landing before. So I thought I'd make a transition and try to develop my own projects. Well, combine that with my interest in UFOs, and that eventually led me to you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So I called you up, and we agreed to meet at your favorite hangout. Was it Marie Callender's, right?
Coco's.
Oh, Coco's. Yes, Coco's, right. And I walked in. I remember you were sitting to the left, where there was like a corner seat, and we sat facing each other. And I don't know, we just immediately hit it off. I don't know, fell into it, And we formed R&D Productions.
Well, you had some ideas then about perhaps putting together some television media about the subject. Now, at that point, the whole UFO topic was really on afterburner, wasn't it? You could barely go a couple of days, and the UFO subject was on TV everywhere.
Yeah, Winkler had that sighting series, and they would. Hard Copy would do stuff on it, and did of course, the STS-48 footage, which was the beginning of another tale that you and I went through with that STS-48 footage, taking it to CNN and how your hard drive blew up.
Oh yeah,
and all those little facts. Between the first showing, which was on Hard Copy, and the showing on CNN, was when I remember saying, look, you got to get this out past you so that that it just can't get lost. And you said, well, let me call my friend over at CNN, right? And you got on the phone talking to producer for Larry King.
Yeah, I knew the producer of Larry King. His name was Tom Farmer, and I knew one of the producers at Hard Copy, which was a guy by the name of Dean Vallis, and that immediately took off, and for a short-lived while, I actually thought it would explode into the stratosphere, but no.
Well, it was very interesting, as I remember the sequence. So you called him, and he said, "Well, send him the footage, right?"
Well, he said, "Come on down to CNN, and they'll air a segment of the footage back, and we'll take a look at it."
Yeah, so we did that. We took it down to them on Sunset, I think where their office was, Sunset, and they made a copy, right?
Yeah.
Right. And then they said they'd get back to us. And then they called and said we have a cancellation on Friday. How about Friday? And we were off and running.
Well, they wanted me. Now, this was something that kind of irked me, but they wanted me to pick a skeptic to come on, because you just can't go on without the opposing point of view. So, at that time, the leading skeptic in North America was Class, and Phil Class, and they called Class, and for whatever reason, because you'd stick a television camera in front of Class and he'd start dancing,
Oh, baby.
But he wanted nothing to do with this. Now
That's
Phil,
very interesting.
Yeah, Phil was a senior editor with Aviation Week and Space Technology magazine at the time. And I found that very unusual. But when he said no, what the hell are you doing, Rich?
Hang on a second. I'm sorry. I'm just I got the dog locked up, and I'm trying to get back in my man cave, and I'm closing up the crinkly plastic.
Oh, I thought you were shuffling papers.
Okay. All right.
So Class didn't want to do it. So what I did was I suggested Jim Oberg, whom at that time I knew slightly.
Mm-hmm. And
Oberg was a contract scientist, engineer, whatever, with NASA, and he accepted the invitation, and then ergo a very famous broadcast happened.
Boy, did it ever! That was quite an interesting period, and and to this day, I'm sure, like like you, I believe totally that what we saw was what we saw, and not things blowing around from the hydrazine outlets.
No, that was
they kept
crap.
contradicting themselves on what caused it, and the timeline of it, urine injection or whatever. No, that hadn't happened. So it was clear to me, in a way, also the way you cannot really nail down James Oberg in a satisfactory way on this subject, because I asked him questions which he still avoids answering. He always kind of slides over and changes the subject.
Yeah, Jim was vociferously, arguing this case, writing from behind his keyboard. But I've tried to get him to come on DMR, and not only STS-48. I mean, I was willing to talk to him about anything.
About the moon, yeah.
Yeah, and he just adamantly refused every time I invited him. So, what's that tell you?
Well, it tells me a couple of things.
That's like trying to dance on an arena full of Jello.
Well, I don't think if possibly the people above him want that you and he on the same screen together again. They don't want this brought back up.
Well,
what have we learned since then? I mean, weapons in space. Remember the Werner von Braun's warning about they're going to try to weaponize space. Right. And of course, they've weaponized space. It's already weaponized. It's probably been weaponized for longer than anybody thinks, just because we already know that everything happens a lot before we know it happens.
And there are some valid reasons for that.
Well, it absolutely were. I mean, the Cold War, it was, you got to take the high ground. Who gets the high ground is going to not lose the game and could win it. But if you don't get the high ground, which is the same thing with the moon was, it's like you don't get the high ground, and some hostile to you gets the high ground, And
it's not just a terrestrial threat. What if an extinction level sized asteroid was going to come in, intersect with the planet, and impact it? And, that on one hand, a lot of people may think, oh, come on. But do you know that we very, very slightly missed a city killer that just flew past the planet pretty damned close right around Christmas time? Did you know that?
Yeah, very close, 45,000 miles.
And if that would have impacted, boy, there would have been a mess, huh?
Well, yeah, and there's no argument there, and that we are prepared for it, and because of the arrays we now have of coverage, we can detect these objects, that we couldn't even detect before. I mean, and it's probably been happening for a long time. We just didn't detect them, But now we see them, and we keep track of them. And so, it would be shrewd to have some response, and I think we do. And I think you can see an example of that in that footage that came out of Russia, where that meteor was streaking across from left to right as somebody was shooting it through the windshield. A big bolide. And just as it explodes, if you slow it down, you see a glowing thing come right up its tail and go right through it, blowing it up, and then keep on going. And everything else kind of spreads out like debris. And I think that might have been, an electromagnetic pulse gun, a rail gun kind of thing that took it out. Because it's clearly there in the video if you slow it down. And it's something went right through that thing and caused it to explode in the air before it got to the ground. And then it kept on going. The shell, whatever it was, just kept right on going.
But it still made one hell of a mess.
It made one hell of a mess, but can you imagine if it had impacted?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, that's one of the things that you often will hear the space authorities claim that a nuclear missile would do if we tried to detonate it at an asteroid, that it would break it up and we'd still get the whole thing. But yeah, that's probably true.
Now, I thought this
But
occurred to me.
it's a lot of little things instead of one huge big thing.
Well, that would be better. In fact, that was the plot of several movies where they would break it up, But I just had something just popped in my mind. I was doing that. I said, well, the STS-48 footage seems to show a similar kind of shot in a way, that we see coming from the lower left of the screen up towards the object that rose out of the atmosphere, in a spread like pop, 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 And then over to the right, there was that other object kind of circling around another object lazily. And as half a second after the shot on the left, which gets all your attention, you'll realize another streak goes by in the direction of that thing as it lazily moves out of the way and then comes back into frame, So there was a lot of activity going on there. And, I wonder if that's the same technology at work against that asteroid that was used against whatever it was they were shooting at.
Yeah.
So it could move itself out of the way before they could blink.
I tell you, I think you're onto something. But guess what, Rich? We are at our very first break. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Dark Matters Radio. Dark Matters Radio is brought to you by KGRA Radio, your contact point to the paranormal. My very special guest tonight and my longtime buddy, Mr. Richard Sarradet, who, incidentally, along with Mark Center, co-host with me on our open line show on the weekend. We got a heck of a lot more coming up when we get back from the break. Stick around and we'll see you on the flip side.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slow circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now to angioprim.com. That's ANGIOPRIM.com. Or to speak with a trained consultant. Give Angioprim a call at 954-882-7221. That's 954-882-7221.
Folks, this is very important information. What's to be said about CBD? AncientLifeOil.com. Our CBD is made from hemp and has 0.003 THC, which means this wonderful product won't get you high, no matter what amount you take. What does CBD do for the body? My hands are tied. But you can Google CBD benefits and be astounded. When you're finished reading, you'll want to log on to AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com and purchase. Life is good when you feel good. People are tired of pain. People are asking for non-GMO organic products to help them with, you fill in the blank. Legal in 49 states, and again, our CBD is made from hemp. Ancient Life Oil is about helping people one by one by one. If you wonder how good the product is, the CEO takes it every day without miss. AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. Have a great day.
Hey, this check is wrong. I worked a holiday and 7 hours of overtime. Not getting paid correctly is a real pain. It could also hurt our boss if our company provides out-of-compliance checks. That's right, construction companies doing business with the government can get fined, or officials of the companies can go to jail if the checks aren't right. It's a law. The Davis-Bacon Act has 30 compliance issues for every check, but there is an easy way for construction companies to be in compliance. EMARS offers Compliant Client, a web-based system that finds and corrects all 30 of the possible out-of-compliance check issues. Users of Compliant Client report an 80% savings in time and money. Running a weekly payroll usually takes about 5 minutes. All 15,000 plus clients of EMARS have never had a legal compliance issue. Plus, they sleep better on check day. Contact EMARS at emarsinc.com or call 480-595-0466.
Now you have the inside contact for alternative talk radio. The Planet. KGRAradio.com.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Dark Matters Radio here in this brand new year of 2020. My special guest, Mr. Richard Sarradet, whom you will hear each weekend when we do the Open Lines show. Rich, speaking of all the time that you and I have done shows, it goes back into my previous network. You started coming on once a week with me just about the end of January of 2010, didn't you?
Man, that's a decade now, Don. That's
hard to believe.
10 years. It stunned me when I really realized it. I was still teaching full time at Westview, and I remember Friday nights I always look forward to. I'd drive out to your place, and I always stop at Starbucks on the way and grab us a couple of
lattes.
Lattes, and we power us through the show.
Oh shit! Oops! You remember the night I dumped my latte all over my broadcast desk? Oh
yes.
My God!
Oh God! Yeah.
But anyway,
everything. But yeah,
often after the show, especially in the late spring, early summer, late summer, early fall, Rich and I would retire out to our patio. And we'd have 2, 3, 4, and sometimes all-night chats if it was fueled with a little Kessler whiskey, So.
Well, I'm not sure little Kessler whiskey would be the right term.
We had a UFO sighting out there.
Yes, not courtesy Kessler.
No, it was honest to God, a real one.
It was very interesting. And it was moving from right to left and, kind of went behind the trees pretty quick in the background. But, it was quite dramatic.
I saw the tail end of it. Another night.
Yeah, I was facing it full on. And
Rich,
so I saw it, come by from behind the roof. Yeah.
Rich would leave, and this one night, he had just walked out the front door. I was basically closing up shop, turning the lights out. All of a sudden, I heard this at the door, and I went to the door, and it was Rich. He says, "Don, come here, get out here." And I walked out, and over to the east in the sky was this multi-colored orb. Now, this is going to sound like a bucket of bovine excrement, but it's a true story. And I'm looking at it, and he said, "What is that?" And I said, "Hell, I don't know. Hang on a minute." So I went in and got my binoculars, my Russian artillery binoculars. I came out, and we looked at it, and we couldn't make heads or tails out of it. And you watched that the whole way going down the hill, didn't you?
Yeah, it was very, and when I got in the freeway, it was in my rearview mirror. But then when I turned on the 405, I was getting further and further away from it as I went west, because it was east. And I was on the front, and I thought, well, the only thing it could possibly be is some kind of blimp, because
but it never moved, Rich.
It never moved. It just sat there, and it was like, it looked like the classic Steven Spielberg UFO, man, with all the lights all over it, and right, Don?
Yeah, hell yeah.
It was huge.
It was weird.
It was huge, though, when you think about the distance, because it was big in the sky just with the naked eye. And then when I could see it in the freeway, moving further and further away, and then taking a left on the 405, going south, so it's to my left now, looking east. I could still see that thing big and clearly. You know, it was whatever it was up in the air at about 30, 33 degrees, and it was spectacular. You know, as you got my stay on the road.
Well, you know, when I think about it, and I really haven't thought about it like this, but just listening to you, we've had 3 or 4 sightings of unusual sky phenomena since we've known each other. We had the Zizek's Road sighting, coming back from that road trip you and I made to Vegas to meet that guy that had the secret pictures, the photographs.
Everybody was packing heat, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, we had it there. We had the one on the patio, this thing. Well, maybe 3, I guess. 3 really memorable sightings of something. But, hey, buddy, this is sunny Southern California.
Well, there is a lot of things happening around here, and both, you know, perhaps not of our own making, but a lot of stuff I think of our own making, you know, also we're seeing. And, you know, I think we've probably been seeing that for quite a while without knowing it. But it's such a complicated picture now. You know, there's too many players. It's hard to keep track of the players.
Yeah, you're right. Without a scorecard. Now, going back to the early days, Rich and I had some pretty damn good ideas for weekly television.
It was a fabulous concept. It really was. It was taking your CRN broadcast, Cable Radio Network broadcast, UFOs Tonight, and taking it, you know, onto TV.
Well, with the magazine.
Yeah, with the magazine. And, you know, I you know, talked with, at the time I was doing some work for Disney, you know, and I got to know Gary Kurtz. Kurtz had been the executive producer on the second Star Wars movie, Empire Strikes Back. And then when Disney and, you know, Lucas worked out a deal to bring the Star Wars stuff to Disneyland, Gary Kurtz came with it to oversee the Star Wars, building of the Star Wars, you know, stuff and all that, you know. And he generally worked, he was supervisor for that whole project in the park. And I met him when I was doing camera work with Steve. We were shooting videos for Disney that they saw, those little Christmas stories starring all the characters, little comedies. You know, we did one with Roger Rabbit and On the Rides and, you know, all that kind of stuff. But so Gary would be hanging out because he was overall seeing the crew that we were on through this project. So he was on set every day. And I was first assistant camera, and you know, I was very hyped up in my projects, and we started talking, and he was very interested in it. And the more we talked, the more seriously interested he was. And he and Brad, who was another guy up in the same department that was a writer for a lot of this stuff, asked for a meeting with us, and I met with them. And they joined on board to try to see if we could develop this. And we had several backup projects too that, you know, gave them copies to look at. So from there, Gary Kurtz was kind of our, you know, our lead man, our front man, and possibly would end up the showrunner. So he was very excited about it too. And you know, he's a remarkably sharp guy. And we made progress. I mean, we took meetings, and we used some of that STS-48 footage too as part of the sales pitch, and it was important. We made a little video for him to show. So as things progress, they do in Hollywood, where, you know, things don't move quickly, but
or at all.
But they are moving. If things keep moving along, and Gary was hanging with it because he was getting it moving along, you know. He was getting, able to pitch it. He was getting some interest in that kind of thing. I wasn't in the picture and directly involved in all that. I had done that earlier, as you know. You and I had done it. But he was doing that now because he's Gary Kurtz. He has the connections, and, you know, he likes the project. So, you know, we kept kind of waiting for the next meeting a little bit. And Gary said, you know, things are happening. I'll keep you posted. You know, there's several groups with interest. And in the end, it went to a meeting now where they're going to decide yay or nay. And we were all kind of waiting to hear. Brad and, me and Steve McMahon, people had all been involved in making a little film and on the project, and yourself. And we didn't get it. We came in second place. And it turns out that Fox was debating between, our format and a fictional anthology series. And they decided to go with the fictional anthology series, and that was called, it was by a kid named Chris Carter. It was called The X-Files. That's what he told us when he came back from the meeting.
Yeah.
So we kind of ended up right there at that gate. And I got to tell you, I really enjoyed The X-Files, so I don't have any bitch about it. But I think there was room for both, but there just weren't that many outlets.
Well, we also had some tickling from the then brand new Sci-Fi Network, Sci-Fi Channel. We had gone, and I forget how we got in touch with one of the people, one of the senior people at Sci-Fi, but we pitched them an idea.
Yeah.
Now, back in those days, there was a publication called Spy Magazine. And Spy Magazine, and if, you can look it up on the net, and it was kind of a funny magazine. It had some satiric stuff in it. It had some real stuff, but whatever it had going for it, they turned it into, for a season or two, a television series. Okay. That aired once, I think it was once a week. I don't remember anymore, Rich. I mean, good God, that was what, 30 years ago. but anyway, so we had an idea to present UFO Magazine as a weekly, and somebody even mentioned a strip, which would have been, I don't know, I think that would have been too much, five nights a week. But
too much.
But a weekly series, with UFO Magazine as the backdrop, and bringing stories and people and what have you to the viewing public. And you remember what they told us at the end?
They said, right now all our money is been spent on buying old sci-fi series,
like The Invaders.
Like The Invaders. We have to get going before we can afford to create any shows ourselves. He says, but we love it, and get back to us in a couple of years. And there was also TNT, but they were really joined underneath the surface and related to each other, and the same companies involved. So those markets weren't that open to creating product as original product, or finding a production company. You see, so as the internet, as the cable channels expanded exponentially over the next 20 years, up to the point where it is today, the thing that goes with all that expansion is that you have to feed the tube 24 hours a day. It's the beast that never sleeps. And so there's a big demand for programming. And, documentary programming is a lot cheaper than drama.
Yeah.
So now you have the market for it, and there are niche channels. When you buy a package, you get the channels you want. You also get these other channels, which are little niche channels, which is where a lot of the interesting stuff is. But these niche channels have become very popular, and now stuff that wouldn't be on like History Channel before or Discovery, and now on there, UFO specials and all kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's a really different world today. As far as being able to produce something, and there a lot of people out there doing it with a pretty sophisticated edge, more and more, as you see with this internet series like Blue Book and even Ancient Aliens. The biggest problem with Ancient Aliens is that as the guy who does a voiceover, Robert Clotworthy, he was my teacher in last year when I went to one of his classes on voiceovers. I wanted to kind of see if I could tune up for that. And as you see, I've done a couple small things, but not sailing on that one yet. But anyway, Clotworthy says, the big thing for him is like ancient alien theorists say,
right?
Everything
with ancient aliens is aliens.
Yeah.
And that's what turned me off. Hey, in my previous life, I was an investigator, and investigators go where the facts lead you, not where you want the facts to lead you.
Yeah, but the thing I think is interesting about that is that if you take away the commentary and just look at what they're showing you, they show a lot of very compelling things, ancient sites and things like this, which, whether it shows, ancient alien technology, which I happen to think is possible, but I don't think it's any separate from, ancient technology was developed right here by earlier civilizations.
Exactly. I had a conversation not very long ago with someone who, basically we started talking about Antarctica. And this person asked me, he said, "What do you think's down there?" And I said, this will take a moment, but let me tell you what. Approximately 11,600 BCE, okay? Something happened on this planet that was catastrophic in nature, that basically, in my view, reset what human civilization was here to zero. Okay, the ice fields in North America and in Europe basically melted away to nothing, rising the seas hundreds of feet. With all that water went in there, I said it created a lot of chaos. And what I think is down there is remnants from a previously high civilization that basically got frozen over and disappeared. The same with the remnants that were in higher climes, like in the Caribbean and what have you. In other words, I think there was an almost extinction level event that wiped out who knows how many millions and millions of people and civilizations. And that's what I think is down there. Now, when you look at some of these places, Rich, like Machu Picchu, I believe it is.
Machu Picchu is fascinating.
Yeah, something built
those
that.
Stones.
I mean, well, yeah, and not only, stapled the stones together. And I mean, when you look at where it is now, I mean, what, 12,000 feet high, something like that. I find it highly unlikely that it was at that height, 12,000 years ago, that something caused it perhaps to raise. But that, to me, shows me that not only that, but, I'll tell you my bias. I don't for a minute believe the pyramids at Giza were created in 2500 BC.
Not even close.
I think they're infinitely older.
Not the Great Pyramid. The Great Pyramid is older than, it's pre-11,500 BC.
And the same thing with the Sphinx. I do not for a second believe that was created by the Egyptians.
Yeah, and even older, And, Casey has been right on, by the way, when they applied, because there have been, research done and scientific teams allowed access to explore. A Japanese team applied for it first with like sonar, around the paw of the Sphinx. And they would want to do that because of what Casey had said when he was sleeping properly, laying in a trance, answering questions from the kind of universal library, whatever, about any questions anybody had about, things. And they got on the topic of Atlantis, and he had a lot to say about Atlantis, which led to Greg Little devoting his life to searching for The proof that Casey said we'd find, and he did find it. He found the remains along the edge of Bimini, just where Casey said he would many years later. Just like Casey predicted that the Dead Sea Scrolls would be found. He's doing this laying on the couch back in the 1930s. And he predicted many other things. He was considered now the father of alternative healing. He's the one who started prescribing really unique ideas to helping people heal themselves. Different things, different solutions. And they're all kind of practical. He was also able to diagnose people while they laid on his couch above his photography studio, being spoken to by his dad while Gladys Turner took notes on whatever he said. He'd go into a light trance. This discovered early in his life, but we won't go into that. But then he could be asked, people got to know his reputation. People sought him out, wrote him letters when he kind of got publicity after a couple of things he did. He was consulted by Henry Stevens and FDR and big oil companies. And his inner self channel told him, you're not giving this gift to enrich people. You're giving this gift to help, help people, which is what you asked for as a child. Now you have this gift, use it properly. So he never took a dime for any of it. And he would give readings sometimes several times a day. Sometimes when the war started, he would do more than his own channel would recommend. He said, it's too depleting for the body. But, as his channeling changed, his mind expanded more and more. And what he used to do unconsciously, as he got older, he could do quickly and consciously. And he'd get letters about, I haven't heard from my son. He was in the 5th Division, and they were over in Italy, and, so he couldn't help but, look and give him a response. In other words, remote view, He was that kind of amazing talent, And a lot of what he had to say about ancient Atlantis is quite interesting, because he describes, like, at one point in Atlantis, they were using the skins of pachyderms stitched together and stretched around a frame of metal, first of wood, then of metal, and then of certain combinations of aluminum and other things. They got more sophisticated. But they had the ability to travel in the air and underwater. And as they evolved, they had to, they seemed to have these properties of, moving through objects, moving through water and air with equal ease, like some kind of boundary layer around it. So, we see these craft that dive into the water and come out. And, of course, the goal of aviation is to reduce the boundary layer effect as much as possible. And crafts with electromagnetic drives, electrogravitic drives, or hydro, those are, they create a boundary layer. It is the same technology that we began to develop and use, like on the front edge of the B-2 stealth bomber, on this trailing edge. They produce a certain positive charge, and on a trailing edge, a positive charge, and a leading edge, a negative charge. That creates a shield, a kind of a boundary layer. And it also makes the craft lose its mass to some extent, because in the configuration, it's like the craft is continually falling downhill, like into a gravity well, which makes it able to go vast distances without needing refueling. And that's used today.
Well, as I often do when I get up in the morning, and I'm usually up pretty early, I wander out to the kitchen about anywhere from 5:15 to 5:30 a.m. And I try to get out there before my 2 dogs, who will immediately start bugging me to feed them. But I poured a cup of coffee, sat down, and I was going through some YouTube videos, and there was a fascinating, and I had seen it before, but I rewatched it, interview with Graham Hancock, and he was talking about Atlantis. And, he made some very striking remarks concerning Atlantis, the fact that, of course, it all originally emanated from Plato in his
Timaeus and Critias. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And talking about where the information originally came from, one of his ancestors, Solon, who was a well-known Athenian lawgiver. He was roughly 150, 200 years before Plato, but he had traveled to Egypt, and he ended up at a temple in, I believe it was called Sais, one of the Egyptian, I believe it was a goddess, but he had some in-depth conversations with the Egyptian priest, and it was they who told him about previous civilizations, and that the information was written in the temple walls. And according to Plato, whom when he wrote about it, was adamant, these are true stories. These are the truth. And Plato was not known as a fiction writer. And but of course, all mainstream academia today regard the whole Atlantean thing as a mythos. And Hancock was quite adamant that I think he was telling us the information he knew.
Absolutely. That was absolutely what he was doing. And it's this whole thing about forbidden history that really strikes me, how everything you know is wrong, the kind of way it's been presented, the conclusions drawn, and how that becomes the official story. It's almost like the bigger the lie, the easier it is to sell, kind of thing, The bigger the cover-up, why do they hide so much from us that would tell us about past cultures? It's an active process that goes on.
Yes, continuously, like Antarctica, which maybe we'll pick up there when we come back. But we're at the top of the hour. Got to take that top of the hour break. My guest tonight, Mr. Richard Sarradet. And incidentally, Rich will be back tomorrow. And we got a lot more coming up, perhaps some phone calls down the line. So stick around. We'll be back. This is Dark Matters Radio, brought to you exclusively by KGRA Radio, your contact point for the paranormal.
Nancy Vernon here with Ozark Mountain Publishing, coming to you from the Ozark Mountains of Northwest Arkansas. We are a publisher of New Age, metaphysical, spiritual, nonfiction books, as well as digital downloads, DVDs, and audiobooks. This is also the home of all of Dolores Cannon's titles. The company was founded in 1992 and has been bringing to you a varied selection of titles covering many different subjects. This year, we have added a new imprint to our company, Big Sandy Press, that will be publishing titles from the genres of historical fiction and nonfiction, paranormal fiction, and more. So be sure to visit our website, ozarkmt.com, and explore all the new and exciting authors and titles coming your way.
For more information about Ozark Mountain Publishing or their events, call 800-935-0045. That's 800-935-0045. Or visit their website at ozarkmt.com. That's ozarkmt.com.
Hey, is that a new music app?
Yeah, check it out. Surfer Music Discovery. It links to thousands of online stations, but the twist is you see the song names and artists that are now playing live.
That's different. No guessing. Looks like a waterfall of music.
So many formats. Rock, oldies, country, R&B, jazz, and a whole lot more.
How's that spelled?
Surfer. S-U-R-F-R.
Is it expensive?
It's free. No need to sign up or sign in.
Get the Surfer Music app free from Google Play or the App Store.
Hi, I'm your host, Smokey Colbert. Filling in for Smokey, because after 75 years of...
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Turns out there's much more to say. Nearly 90% of wildfires are caused by us humans being careless, dumping our used barbecue coals willy-nilly. Guess the song was wrong. We did start the fire. That's why I respect Mother Nature and her trees, whether coniferous or new car scented. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now. The Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
The new KGRA YouTube channel is now live. Subscribe and be sure to hit the bell to stay up to date on the latest major announcements, alerts on trading topics, exclusive live streams, live video cast, and that's just the beginning. Be the first to know what's coming from the KGRA TV channel in real time. So keep it locked in to your contact for alternative talk radio on the internet. Your KGRAradio.com. You listen to us, and we listen to you. And so does the CIA. KGRAradio.com.
And we're back for hour number 2 with my guest, Mr. Rich Sarradet. Rich, in all those years we've known each other, I got to say, one of the strangest, and no, ladies and gentlemen, I haven't forgotten about Antarctica, but one of the strangest things that Mr. Sarradet and I came across, and we have come across some weird stuff in our past, was a guy that was going by the name of Michael Younger. Now, is that name familiar to you? Perhaps it is, perhaps it's not. He's been dead now for, what, Rich? Almost 20 years, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. But back in the day, he was out on the talk circuit, allegedly connected to some very powerful entities. I interviewed Younger a number of times back when I started broadcasting, which was in 1990, 91, with a legendary TV and radio show host out here in Los Angeles. We had a weekly show. This is when I very first started. We had a weekly show that was running on a radio station out of Glendale, California. And at any rate, to make a long story short, we would always take phone calls. And this guy, every week almost, you could look forward to him calling in. Very, very aware, very knowledgeable, a guy by the name of Mike. And as it turned out, this guy was this Michael Younger. Now, Michael Younger was not his real name. This is what he went by. But when I first heard about him, he was giving a talk somewhere, and Vicky and I couldn't go. So we called up Rich and asked Rich, because Rich was doing some writing for the magazine. And we asked Rich, would you like to cover this? And Rich said, yeah, I'll be happy to do that. And Rich, do you want to pick it up from there and kind of give everybody a thumbnail sketch of this guy?
Yeah, it was a short distance from my home. As you know, it was at the Women's Club on 4th Street, right off of Wilshire in Santa Monica. And I lived, half a mile away, right off Ocean on San Vicente. So just like I could pop over there, and I got there in time, and I walking to this big room from the side, and it was full of people. And Steve Polidoros was standing on the other side, and he had on one of those, like a flight jacket with, patches all over it, And this was he and Gary. What's his name, Don? Schultz.
Gary Schultz.
Yeah.
And Norio Hayakawa.
They were sponsoring this presentation of this guy from Com 12.
This is before Norio became a strictly UFO atheist. At the time, he fully embraced everything UFO. Am I wrong?
Yeah, I think he just blames it all on high technology, not on anything extraterrestrial. I think that's where he ended up, don't you?
Yeah,
it's military.
But it's hard to say. I mean, I can't speak for Hayakawa, but yeah.
Well, I mean, I think he got to the point. It's like, like we get to occasion, like you with your 20 years in the fall, you kind of say, well, that's all I know about it, and that's that. I'm done. This is, and then you come back to it, And so
only on radio.
Yeah. You take a higher or lower profile. I mean, I'm way kicked back about it. I love doing our show, and I still, am deeply involved in my thinking, my reading on the subject, and subjects related to it. I'm very interested in this new idea of the emphasis on the experiencer, because I think that's a gold mine that needs to be looked at, and a lot of data points available. And this is the path that Vallée is suggesting, if you've heard any recent interviews with him. And so I'm very interested to see where the new edge of ufology will go, because it's kind of reaching new junctures of how we can examine the data.
Well, let me cry you back to Michael Younger.
Yeah. So Mike, after I went up and introduced myself to him and told him I told this to Steve Palladores, who sent from UFO Magazine. You guys had asked for it, and Don and Vicky sent me over, and said, "Oh, okay," and so I, took a place in the back on the side where I'd come in. And he proceeded to talk about, first of all, he had a long black coat. He was, at that time, not way overweight, but he was stocky, and he always had full jowls, and but very piercing and focused eyes. And on the side, across from me, standing in front of a post, which was just one of the supports, and the back of the room was full and lined with people, all on the windows. The place was packed, just packed. And he introduced himself as Mike Younger and said, "That's not my real name, but that's the name we operate under, all of us at this level of Mike's." He says, "And I know you guys want to hear about UFOs." He says, and we'll get to some of that. He said, "But we'd like to paint a larger picture for you, and we'll talk about some of the things you guys want to know about a little bit." And I started taking notes on a yellow notepad, as much as I could, and I still have some of those notes. in a file from that first meeting. Don, I found them not too long ago.
In your garage, I'll bet.
Yeah, in the file cabinet in the garage. You got it. That was a major project. As you know, our garages can get. It was a major project. But we're at the end of the tunnel, and it's much better. Anyway, they took a break, and so I went up and introduced myself to them, and I said, I'd like to talk to you a little more about this stuff, and I'm from UFO Magazine. And he said, okay, sure, see me afterwards. So I did, went up, but he was already crowded with people, so I just stood back and let things calm down a little bit. And then he started working his way towards the door with his escort, who was like this, 6'2", 6'3", square-jawed, Nordic blonde with blue eyes and a long trench coat that escorted him out. And he was called Mike as well. And they were very good friends. And had been. And Mike called him Mikey. Mikey died. Mikey died. I forget how he died. And it really kind of broke his heart. It really hit Mike hard. Anyway, so that was my introduction to Mike Younger. By the time I got outside in the parking lot behind the building, Mike still had a group around him, but it thinned way out. And he was talking to a small group, and I was standing to the left of Mike, trying to get his attention while he was looking at me, but hadn't looked back at this German gentleman who had taken him by his left forearm and kind of shook his hand, like get his attention forcibly, And Mike turned and looked at him, and he spoke to Mike in kind of harsh German tones, right, while shaking his hands, and then he moved away. And I thought, Jesus, who the fuck was that, And Mike turned to me, and I said, so I'd like to get together and kind of flesh out this, whatever I'm going to write about this with you, how do we get in touch? And so he gave me a method of getting in touch with him, and a number to call and what to do when when the answering machine answered, blah, blah, blah. And so I went back and reported all this back to you and Vicki, and I said, there's definitely something behind this, and I'd like to know who and what is behind it. I'm thinking of Bill Moore, of like the kind of scenario where, okay, who is this guy fronting for? Now, it claimed to be a group of, ex-Navy SEALs, So I kind of looked into that a little bit, and, everything Mike had told me in detail about anything I asked him about the SEALs, he seemed to know, and he seemed to be right about, which I thought was interesting. I don't think Mike ever was a SEAL. I think Mike was fronting for some SEALs or some
Do you remember what I told you?
Well, about the tattoos?
Well, that and initially, about the whole thing, I basically said beware.
Well, yeah, and I took that deeply to heart, which is why I'd come back and report to you, just pass on the information, like this is what Mike's saying, here's what Mike's saying, here's what Mike's saying, and it was like if you're doing what I was doing is kind of a form of investigative journalism in my mind, but I had to invest in it. I had to gain his trust. And I didn't want to deceive him. But at the same time, I kept it clear between him and me that, I'm in this to find out, who you are, what's really going on,
Yeah, sure.
So, and I just stuck with it. And my conclusions are, I'd say my conclusions are inconclusive. But my thinking on it is that there's a lot more to the Mike Younger story that, we don't know, that I think he was involved in some kind of project. I think, he was just disappeared for 3 years, he after he signed up. And he signed up in the Marines, and he did. Mike looked very old for his age. He always did. When I met him, he was about 30, and he looked about 50. So he got in the Marines, signed up, got out of a bad home situation, and he joined up, and then nobody heard anything from him for 3 years. Then he popped back in, and he ran a business as a house painter. And eventually married and settled down, had a family. And then suddenly with the Bob Lazar story coming on, and the UFOs live things, he was like he was triggered. And suddenly he was obsessed with UFOs.
Well, there was somebody else that triggered him too. And that was William Cooper, Bill Cooper.
Yeah, big time. He wrote that Behold a Pale Horseshit article, remember?
Yes.
To Cooper. Yeah, he really had it in for Cooper. I saw him rip Norio Hayakawa a new you-know-what and lock Hayakawa's heels once at Steve Polydoros's house when we were doing a Blue Files episode interviewing Robert Dean. And I came in, and when I walked in the living room, Norio was in a typical Japanese head-bowed position right in front of Mike Younger. And Mike Younger was furious with him for something he had done, I remember that. Interesting encounters.
Well, when he died in very, well, I don't want to say mysterious. I'll say very unusual.
Yeah, rather odd circumstances. But he had really punished his body. I mean, the deterioration that happened to that man. I also think there may be other factors involved in his deterioration beyond this, something he induced on himself. I think he was being, harassed pretty heavily. There was a time when there's this whole episode where they had a metal bed frame, he and his wife in their bedroom, and there's a window to face back towards the alley. What happened is one day in the evening, Mike came home and he touched the bed frame and it gave him a shock, and like a mild shock. He said, "What the hell? Where'd that come from?" And they were looking around to see if they could figure it out. And the listener says, "Well, there was a Southern California Edison truck in the alley up on the pole, earlier today I saw. Maybe they did something." And they looked out there, and there was on the top of the pole, there was a little thing shaped like a microphone almost, some kind of, what do they call those things? Psycho weapons, cytronic. Looks like a cytronic weapon. And it was like aimed right towards the back of his house. So they called Southern California Edison to inquire about it. And Southern California Edison said, we didn't have any trucks out there today. It's not the first time, by the way, that Southern California Edison has been used as a front for, these black ops stuff. That whole reservation down there that they killed the leader of the Michael Conosciuto story was a part of that, Anyway, so those little things are kind of strange. And I think, Mike deteriorated, and I think a lot of it was him feeling stuck because, he had phonied up so much shit and lied about a lot of things. But at the same time, he had also made an important impact, I think, in his mind on where to turn your eyes and look at things. A lot of his research that was shared, and he had access to things that seemed earlier than anybody else in a lot of areas. As you know, Don, that some of the stuff he passed on got around very quickly, but kind of came from him getting his hands on it and getting it out there.
Well, one of my last contacts with him has stuck with me ever since it happened. And it happened in the mid 90s. But Mike had contacted Rich and said he wanted to talk to me. Well, I'm not a hard guy to get a hold of, right? And I, as a rule, I make myself available. And one evening he called up and I answered the phone, and it was Michael Younger. And when I realized who it was, I said, "Hey, Mike, what's the story?" Now, that to me was simply a throwaway, like, "Hey, how you doing? What's going on? Boy, what the heck have you been up to?" That kind of thing. But he took it absolutely wrongly, didn't he, Rich?
Yeah, it was like he went paranoid or something. It was very strange. Now, at that time, Don, he had already been on your show, hadn't he?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so I didn't understand that reaction either. I think what it was, like I say, whatever he represented, whether he was just representing himself and created this whole thing, or whether he was actually, an asset of somebody else, he's kind of an enigma. But he was a very bright man, a very talented artist. And I think he was a talented remote viewer, just naturally, because I think he had that ability. And I saw him exercise a few times without realizing it till later. And I think Polydorus could tell you the same thing. So, he's a little bit of an enigma. I sometimes speculate, because with him you can, speculate a lot. It's like speculating about UFOs. that he may have been part of some kind of MK Ultra project, maybe even the Montauk project. I know that Al Bielek insisted on talking to him, and I saw him, talk to Mike. And later on, another source I had from the Navy, when I talked a little bit about the Eldridge, he said something very interesting, which recently has been coming out as there's another possibility. They think they found the Eldridge wasn't the Eldridge, because this guy said to me, when I was talking to him, I said, "Well, what makes you think there was just one Eldridge?" Oh, well, that's interesting, And when I mentioned the Philadelphia experiment to him, he kind of shook his head, in a positive, yeah. That's all he said. So I don't know, but I think the stories of the weirdness out in Montauk and Camp Hero as being a place where underneath it there were experiments being done on psychic issues and time travel and all that kind of shit. I think there is a great deal of validity in that. These were, and the town nearby, which is really a village for the families of all the soldiers working at Camp Hero, and working in these underground projects on these psychological experiments they were doing with and without chemicals. But I saw a really interesting show where this guy did a follow-up show, and he went to the town, which was built basically around the base to look like a little American town for the wives and families of the people who stayed, were there 24 hours a day living on the base, as a lot of military bases. So they could have a little American village of their own, and to join up two roads, just a mile or so or two from the site. Well, they interviewed some older gentlemen. He interviewed some older gentlemen about those times and living there. He says, "Oh yeah," he says, "Yeah, sometimes a fog would come in over the village, and." People are all affected by it. He says, yeah, they were definitely doing things, using the families as experiments with some of their projects. He says, and you can find old fellows who can tell you a lot more than that. And they have been inside that place and remember being inside that place, So, yeah, what a world, huh?
Yeah, you know what? If you're up for it, I'm gonna open the phone lines.
Yeah, let's do it. I mean, that's just kind of wild speculation I get into to account for some of the bizarreness around a guy like Mike, who seemed a lot older than he was, and could speak so cohesively and in detail and long periods of time on such a variety of subjects, almost like he was downloading it, at times. So I know he had the ability to kind of channel or remember or do something at an extraordinary degree that most people don't, Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. Look, if you'd like to give us a call tonight, call in with questions to Rich or myself. If you'd like to join the conversation, this is what you do. Give us a call at area code 855-472-5483. That's 855-472-5483 or 85 KGRA Live. That's 85 KGRA Live. And all of this is being brought to you courtesy of the Paranormal Radio app hotline. And we can thank those fine folks for standing up for KGRA. And hey, I look forward to hearing from you in this new year. So when did you discover, Rich, that Mike had passed on?
Let me think. Right away, I think Steve called me, as soon as he found out. And what I heard was that he'd gone back to living with the woman who kind of really raised him, like a mother to him, who lived, out of town, somewhere in the more rustic parts of Orange County. And he was in bad shape by then. His wife had to get him out of the house. because he was just getting too bizarre. And so he went back and lived there. He'd already done 2 attempts at suicide. One where he had sat in the truck in Steve Polidorus's garage with the door closed, with the engine running for hours. Steve got home from work. When he opened the garage door, all the smoke came billowing out, and the car engine was still running, and Mike was passed out, dripping with sweat, soaking the seats and everything else, and unconscious. So Steve had to call 911, and Mike recovered from that one.
We got a call.
That's how far he had deteriorated. It's
Yeah.
bizarre. I mean, from the man I knew early on to that, in a couple of short years, was pretty bizarre.
We got a call from, I think it's our buddy Stephen in right here in sunny Southern California. And
Hey, Don,
Stephen, welcome to the show, my friend. Happy New Year, and how you doing?
I'm doing well. Originally, as I was on hold, the sound wasn't very good, but as soon as you actually formally introduced me, it actually improved greatly. So that's good. I don't have to call back.
Well, that's a step in the right direction.
Yeah, no, I understand you guys were just talking about Mike. Unfortunately, I was at work. I just got out, and first thing I did when I got in the car was turn you guys on, and I was hoping it was live, so I called in without even knowing. And oddly enough, I just heard Rich say that Mike Younger seemed to look much older than he supposedly was. And I was actually just, believe it or not, out of coincidence, I just watched his 1992 lecture at the Grand Conspiracy Forum, probably the only video of him that exists on YouTube. And someone wrote in the comments that he passed away in 2001 at 39 years old. Rich, is that accurate? Was he 39 when he passed away? There's no way, right?
Yeah, no, that's it. He was 39.
Oh my God! I see. Then that's just, again, it's an enigma wrapped in a riddle. Because if you watch that video of him in 1992, it's online. You can all see it. I mean, he is at that point. He must be. If we're to say he's 39 when he died, he would have to be 28 years old when he's giving that lecture at that conference. That was the conspiracy conference that Norio put together, where
I
think Gunderson
that's about right. That's exactly right. That's what I computed.
But right, but if you, I mean, honestly, if you were to take him to any law enforcement agency that does any sort of like regression or looks at the image and tries to determine their age, his hair is dyed jet black. His mustache is dyed jet black. His hair is receding. He's overweight. I mean, he looks clearly.
No, he's not dyed. I was around him long enough. Nobody ever saw a little gray come into it, but that was his hair originally.
I have a tough time believing that the person in that speech was 28 years old.
I know, and I had a tough time still believing it, and that's why I say there's more to think about here than people are thinking about.
Right. Good. Then I'm glad we agree there.
To speculate on.
He's certainly
that may be what you missed. I think that there are things about Mike which are truly enigmatic, and I don't think anyone knew him any better than I did. I'd say me and Steve Polidorus probably knew him the best of all. We worked with him so much. We did the Blue File with him. We did, and Steve's the one who kind of pulled me in closer to Mike and, put together that show that we were co-hosting. I did as Bill Bridges.
Right.
So, it's like, with all I went through with that effort to kind of get behind and see what we could learn about how the government runs things against the UFO community, which is really what, ultimately seeking to get, because I'm highly suspect of a lot of things like abductions that, with the amount of MK Ultra projects and the things I've learned from a lot of research, by the way, that Mike provided, man. He had copies of documents and were really, about the different projects, Artichoke and all that kind of things, which were quite informative. And that's part of the bigger picture that, he was talking about them trying to show you, and the different companies involved and why are they doing this kind of research, and especially in the field of medicine and genetics and all that kind of stuff. They were trying, painting a big comprehensive picture of everything is wrong.
Well, there was
Yeah.
something else too going on at that time, Rich, that neither of us mentioned yet, and that was there were two alleged intelligence groups that were at odds with each other. And Younger allegedly was part of a group called Com 12.
Mm-hmm.
And
And the other
Aquarius
group
was,
and I forget now.
Aquarius.
That was the that was the aviary represented the MAJ 12.
MAJ
group.
12, that's right. Yeah.
Right, and that was the aviary group. The bird names.
Yes.
And Greg wrote a lot about that in this book on the desert. What's it
Project
called?
Beta.
Project Beta. And Greg and I have talked extensively about this stuff.
Well, let me add somebody to the conversation here. He's been waiting, and Stephen, I don't want you to take off, but we've got Ron, our buddy Ron from Minnesota, and Ron, welcome to the show. Happy New Year, my friend.
Hey, Don. Happy New Year to you and Richard. Happy New Year. Glad you're on the show this week. Thank you.
Yeah, back at you, bud.
Back at you, my friend.
I tell you, I'm glad the holidays are all done with. I'm so fed up with this sales pitch they give us each and every year. I mean, I know it's family thing. I got all that family stuff, but just the.
Oops,
lost you.
I think we have a little problem with the phone. Skywatcher, you tuned in there, my friend?
Stephen is back, and we lost
I'm back.
Ronald.
Yeah, when I clicked on Ronald to add him to the call, Stephen got cut off, and when you brought Stephen on, Ronald got cut off.
Yeah, so I think we can only do one at a time.
What in the heck is going on?
No idea.
The secret government, buddy. Well, Ronald, if you're out there, my friend, that was not intentional.
I could make my point, my question, and then I can wait for the answer off air if necessary. But Don, I was listening to a very old archive of your show from UFOs Tonight with a gentleman by the name of Martin Cannon. He wrote a paper called. Yes, it was. He wrote a paper called. What's very odd is I came across the episode called "The Controllers" on your old archive list that I have, and just out of the blue, out of the coincidence, I decided to listen to "The Controllers," and I don't believe it was one that I listened before. It's probably one of the better interviews I've ever heard. I actually took notes on it. I took 2 pages of notes on that episode before getting to my phone later that evening, only to see that a person I follow online, AJ Ganaris or something, he does something called The Saucer Life, and he, that very same day, released his podcast that covered no other than Martin Cannon and his paper, The Controller. So I just think the synchronicity in that is I totally arbitrarily clicked on it the same day that this other podcaster was working on his episode. But my question to you is, it seemed like, according to the episode I listened to with this podcaster, that Martin Cannon seemed to have a very different opinion of you in 1989 when he gave some quotes to Bill Cooper in
He hated
Pale
my
Horse.
guts.
He hated
You
your
know
guts,
why?
but then by night, I know that it had. I don't know why. So why?
Well, he was doing some writing for the magazine when Vicki and I first got together.
Oh,
and
I know why. Go
he
ahead.
knew
Yep.
my military background.
Yes.
And he hated the fact of what I did in the military.
Understood.
As a matter of fact, he hated the military. So Vicki was having this get-together one evening with a whole bunch of people. Cannon was there, and I decided to screw with him. I'll be very upfront. And we were all drinking wine, and and I went up to him, and I said, "Hey, Martin, you know what? What?" And this was just pure orneriness on my part. I said, "You know, buddy, a day without blood is like a day without sunshine. That triggered him. And anyway, he looked at me and he said, "You effing baby killer." And then he ran. He ran into another room. So I figured, what the hell? I followed him in there, and I offered to throw him out the window. But anyway, later on, we got that squared away. And and anyway, by the time I interviewed him, I got to tell you, I was very impressed with that paper he wrote. Later, now you had to have met the guy to really understand this. He was one of those people that, well, let's just say you could basically walk him into a corner and he would run away. I think that's exactly what happened to him. Somebody walked him into a corner and he totally refuted his entire thesis. I tried later to get in touch with him to bring him back on my radio show to talk about that. And he just went underground. I mean, I've never heard from him since then. And it's been over, well, I guess about close to about 25 years. But yeah, that's an interesting little thing in the scheme of UFOdom.
Well, my take on that, this back away, was that I think somebody totally intimidated him to back off.
Exactly. Yeah, that's.
And I think it was they made a serious effort to suppress him. And I think it was governmental.
Did that answer your question, Stephen?
That did answer my question, but I'm going to follow up on it a little bit. This podcaster did a little bit more of an extensive investigation, and he actually found the audio clip of why Martin Cannon claims why he backed off of it. It wasn't so much that he didn't think that the opinion that he wrote had merit, or his thoughts on the subject didn't have merit. It was the fact that after he wrote that paper, he saw a lot of people who were probably mentally ill coming out and saying that they were CIA mind-controlled agents, and he felt as though he may have played a role in that. Now, maybe you believe that or not, but he didn't just do it in about face and say what I wrote was incorrect. He basically took the position of, I really don't want to be held accountable for these people that read it and maybe went off the deep end as a result of it. Maybe, but I will say there was an interesting part of this podcast, and I'll post it on your forum so people can read it. But apparently he got into phone hacking must have been the early 90s. That was something called phreaking with the PH. I'm actually a little bit familiar with it. But basically you could use your home telephone, and if you could play the right tones into it, it would connect you to people all over the world. It was a way of sort of getting around paying long-distance fees and so forth. So he found that interesting, and he got into it, according to the research and the papers that he later wrote. And he was connected to phone systems all over the world, essentially. He said that the Montreal phone systems were fun, and you could actually talk to people. But more than once, he would be connected to a phone line abroad that would basically be what we now call a number station. So basically it would say 22, 26, 18, but it was a very monotone young voice reading just numbers, unending, the same numbers. But then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it would say, "Hey, wake up down there," similar to what Keel heard on his in his experiences. Regardless, he said that despite the fact he was calling random numbers throughout the world using this technique, more than one occasion, he got that same number station where it was the monotone voice reading the numbers, and he began to wonder if the whole phone phreaking subculture was basically a way of the government leading people into this sort of mind control trap. But he said he totally backed off of it, and like your instincts are correct, he was scared away when his phone rang one day and the person that was reading the numbers was calling him. He answered the phone, and it was 24, 26, 18, 16, but he didn't make the call outgoing. That was now incoming. So the number he called was now calling him back. And I think that really scared him by his own account. So really fascinating guy, someone that seemed to be lost to history, but someone whose work I think should be seriously considered and looked at.
Well, it's been a very long time since I've listened to that interview. I'm going to have to, I think I'm going to have to look that up and plant my headphones on and see what the heck we talked about.
How about there's a point in that interview where he says that John Alexander's then wife left him a dirty message that said, basically, Martin, John is very upset at you, and if you don't stop it, he's going to pass your information on to Gordon. And that was the voicemail, Gordon being some guy by the name of Gordon Novell. But, right, and you said, I recognize the voice as John's wife, so it wasn't like it was just, a fraudulent call. It was clearly John Alexander's wife. That was
a whole nother aspect to the whole Martin Cannon thing. Now, Alexander...
They didn't like him.
No.
Novell? Oh, baby.
Alexander was and still is an enigma, okay?
Yes.
I interviewed him a few years ago. You probably heard the interview.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And when he came on, now, as you know, I'm former military, and I referred to him as Colonel because that was his rank when he was still active duty. As a matter of fact, did you know that he and Al Gore were buddies? They were college roommates.
No, I think Al Gore was college roommates with the actor Tommy Lee Jones, if I'm not mistaken. So that
he might have been, but he was also a roommate at one point with Alexander.
Interesting.
Okay, but anyway, when that happened, now I knew Alexander's wife. As a matter of fact, when Rich and I were working to get our TV show package on the air, okay, at the time, I'm pretty sure it was the Sci-Fi Channel, she sent me a video out of the blue of her being interviewed. This is before she was married. And, I'll tell you, back in the early 90s, she was a pretty striking, cut a pretty striking figure. And the guy, and this all had to be a setup, but the guy that was taping her kept dropping the lens down to her breasts. Okay. That happened several times. And she basically said in the letter that came with the video that, she was interested in being a correspondent on our show if we ever got it on the air. Now, she was also somewhat infamous at that time. I hope I'm not telling stories out of school, but what the hell? I mean, this was all public knowledge then. She went to one of these high elite UFO meetings and they wouldn't let her in. So she famously at the time, you see, Rich, this is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Mark will tell you, drop a quarter in me and the stuff comes out.
Yeah.
But she famously looked around and she said, but she didn't use the word screw. She used another word, but she says, who do I have to screw around here to get into this meeting? So she was quite a character.
And is that when she first met John Alexander? Was that the day?
Huh?
I'm joking.
No, it might have been.
Is that the first day? Yeah.
It might have been.
Is that when they first met? Interesting. Now I'm on his radar. He's going to sing Gordon after me.
Yeah, Gordon's dead, by the way.
Oh, well, then I don't have to worry about him.
Yeah, you don't.
Or you do. I don't know. Maybe so.
maybe you can bring Gordon back from the dead, though. Who knows?
Hey,
well, you know what? I gotta get Ron on here.
Okay, well, John, appreciate the conversation. You guys have a great weekend, and I'll tune in tomorrow.
Good to hear from you, bud.
Okay, thank you.
Likewise,
Stephen.
We'll chat soon. Bye.
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 And Ron, are you back, my friend?
Ron?
Ron?
Earth to Ron?
Ronnie, well, he's not. But hey, we got another buddy on the line. We got Ricky from Tejas. Hey, Ricky, how's it going, buddy?
Hey, how you guys doing tonight?
Good. I'm glad you took me up on calling in. I'm glad to hear from you.
I'm finer than rock there, buddy.
Yeah.
Hey,
I want to thank you for Don. Ricky sent my family a box of barbecue from a famous barbecue place. I mean, all these different sausages and a brisket and a bottle of barbecue sauce.
You know what? He didn't send me
fixins. Oh.
Well,
how you been, Ricky?
I hope you guys enjoy it.
Yeah, we will.
Hey,
how you been, buddy?
I've been doing. I was really sick over the holidays, but I'm a lot better now. I actually lost 9 pounds over the holidays, so with the flu and all that sort of thing.
Oh man, I'll tell you what. Oh, guess what? I think we got. Yeah, I think we got Ronald back. It's been a hell of a night for him. Oh, well, I'll tell you what, Ricky, right before the holidays, around December 2nd, I came down with a stomach flu, and oh my God, did that knock me back on my heels.
Oh, I was in bed for 2 days. It was rough. Hey, I was calling to kind of reminisce with Richard about the Ozark Mountain UFO conference that we went to one year. Yeah. And I don't know if we've discussed this on the air before or not, but here we are in the haunted hotel there, where they had the dinner, and we'd met a contactee there. I won't mention his name, but he's making the rounds now at these different conferences and whatnot. And his thing was he said there was this sound inside of his head, and we said, okay, well, and he reaches into his pocket and pulls out a stethoscope. And Rich and I kind of look, and we're like, he wanted us to listen to his head. So we're like, let's do this. Let's go in the bathroom. So we go in the bathroom of the haunted hotel.
This is hysterical.
And we're standing there, this guy, and, put the stethoscope on, put it up to his forehead. And, you could see the guy kind of scrunching his scalp and whatnot, And he says, do you hear it? And you could kind of hear something, and I said, here, Rich, you take a listen. By the time somebody walks in, and here we are, his stethoscope up to this guy's forehead, listening to him, listening for these sounds that are supposedly, I don't know, alien transmissions or something. I can't quite remember the whole story. But that was an experience, man.
I'm telling you, Ricky and I were looking at each other like, what the fuck? But you kiss a lot of pigs, along the way. Our experience with that, you don't know what to think of. You just
or a lot of frogs before you find your princess, right?
Something's going on with that guy. For all I know, I don't know, because it's not based not so much as that came after a series of UFOs hovering around his house many times, seen by he and his neighbors, according to him.
Yeah, he had quite a story, and as it evolved, and we exchanged Facebook stuff and phone numbers, and I had a couple of phone conversations with him, and I had to just kind of cut it off because the stories just got more and more bizarre and exaggerated, and he wound up telling me he was like in the special forces and all this sort of stuff.
Oh no!
Yeah, it kind of went off and a little further than. but anyway, when we got out of the bathroom, Linda Moulton Howe.
I'd be careful how I said that, Ricky.
Linda Moulton Howe was there. So, we said, well, let's introduce you to Linda Moulton Howe. So we went over and introduced him to her. And so, of course, she had to listen to his forehead, too.
Yep, there we were.
Yep.
Oh,
but I just thought I'd call and share that little piece of UFO conference.
Well, it's been a long time, Rick. It's been a long time since you've called in. Make it more frequently, my friend.
I'll have to try to do that, Don. You guys have a good night, and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay,
well, that was a great reminiscence, I must say.
You take care, buddy. I got to get to Ron
Will
up
do.
in Minnesota.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Talk to you later, Ricky.
Ron, I think we finally made it, my friend.
Oh, my gosh, I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened there.
Don't worry about it.
What's
What's up with you, pal?
So do you think with the recent, of course, with the latest holiday rush and everybody buying like millions or billions of dollars online, did you see that report?
I think it's great for the economy.
Yes, it is. It is. But now the question I have is, do you think that with a simple, hot story on the internet, can they convince us that a UFO is real? Now, you guys have seen them. I haven't seen one yet, officially. Okay, now I've seen some weird stuff in the sky that I couldn't explain, but I don't have any way to verify what I was looking at, if that
That's
makes
why
any
it's
sense.
unidentified.
Right. But could the media, now social media, Facebook or whatever we use, could they convince us that we are looking at something that we're not even seeing? And that would be a good question.
Well, I don't know. I mean, these days I'm at the point where I believe practically zero of things I see on media. Okay.
Okay.
And stuff I hear, well, cut that in half, and that's where I'm at. So, my overall is I'm pretty distrustful. Rich?
Yeah, I'm with you there, bud.
All right.
The thing is, the national security state is what rules so heavily in this country with such a heavy hand, and you got to look at the CIA for it outgrew its role and kept right on rolling. They were never supposed to be involved in domestic surveillance like they are today, and they're never supposed to have infiltrated all of our media organizations.
Well, look
but
at
they
it.
have, and they even bragged about it. And remember, that was one of the documents that Mike Younger handed out. It was on page 2, subparagraph 5. We have complete control of the media. Bragging about it. It was an internal document.
Well, look at what is
academics.
happening today. What is happening today with the current political situation? Now, regardless of what your personal feelings are of the President Trump, regardless, regardless, is he has been dealing with an entrenched group of people that have basically pulled the stops out in an attempt to destroy him. Okay?
Yeah.
And so far, they have not succeeded. But it just shows you that throwaway phrase today, the swamp is alive and well.
Yes, it is, and it needs to be broken up.
Well, I hope whatever they tell us, social media or the news or whatever, I hope for all of us listening and for our community that we have a fantastic 2020. And I think it's already started off pretty good, actually. So, that's about
if
how
you're
I
talking
want to
about
end
those
this.
online sales, I'm sitting here adorned in online sales. My earphones.
Oh yeah.
I got all these neat devices. I'm wearing what just came today, belatedly, and this is really cool. My wife got me a heated vest. You know, it's one of those kind of puffy, sleeveless vests, and it's got a built-in heating
as
system.
opposed to a puffy shirt.
Yeah, it's one of those kind of air-filled things, are real warm but real light. You know, like
did you ever see that Seinfeld episode with the puffy shirt?
Yeah, and with the pirate.
No, I'm sorry, I didn't see that one. But anyway, it's perfect for my skinny little cold body. And, out here in the man cave where I do everything, this time of year it gets pretty cold. So I have to run two heaters, and each one is 1,500 watts. And that's a lot of wattage. I figure I get the heated vest going and I won't need them.
Oh, yeah. we got 1 degree. You're talking about cold? Come on.
Hey, Ron,
yeah.
guess what? I saw a new weather front is moving into the Midwest, and it's supposed to bring tons and tons of snow, rain, ice, sleet. You guys are in for some fun here the next couple of days.
Yeah. I got all my soda. I got my food. I'm good. I don't have to go anywhere. All right. Well, thank you.
Got my
guys
supplies.
for the
I'm
call.
holed up, man. I'm holed up.
Yeah. Happy New Year, everybody, and great talking to you. We'll definitely call in again and talk to you next time.
Okay, Ron. Hey, buddy, have a great weekend.
Yeah.
All right, you too. All right. Good to hear you, Rich.
You too.
Bye-bye. Okay, well, Richard, we are...
Jeez, we're there.
We're just about out of time, my friend. Look, tomorrow night, ladies and gentlemen, we will be back with our open line show with Rich, with Mark Center, and of course, myself, yours truly. Next Friday, I will host on this show Mr. Richard Hoagland. Richard Hoagland always has some fascinating information to impart. Actually, I got to tell you, I'm kind of looking forward to that because it should be good. It always is. Rich, we'll see you tomorrow, my friend.
Absolument, mon cher.
And let me see. How many seconds do I have? I gotta check. Well, yeah. My super duper atomic clock. That's it, gang. We're out of time. So look, have a great weekend. Keep those eyes pointed up. Keep your ear to the ground just so you have an idea of what's happening. And we'll see you tomorrow. Good night.